think I bought it on the 22nd of October. So like right in here, initially I was risking $10, which is quite a wide stop. But I was going to move it up, and I actually was okay risking that much because I was actually looking to buy 500 more shares. I would have loved to get like 1,000 shares on a swing, but because it just kept going up, I never got the chance to add. And then I moved my stop up to 12 and then back to 14 after a few days. So, and it just kept going. And usually I never swing longs like more than a day or two. I usually only swing shorts like for multi-weeks, but as this kept working and kept going up, I just kept staying patient.
All right, everyone, welcome back to This Week in Steady Trade. Just normal episode this week. If you missed the one with our guest last week, Stephen Johnson, it was one of my favorites, actually. Go check it out. Great episode. But this week, yeah, just your three favorite hosts. We'll just start it right off. How's the month going? Next week's Thanksgiving. That's pretty wild. But we'll probably take the week off. Sorry in advance, everybody, but it's a holiday. But yeah, how's your week? How's your month? Give us a little update, boys.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's pretty wild to think about. It's November, like we're ending the year soon, which is wild. This month in general is pretty good. Nothing a little bit different than October in the sense that October we just had the two main huge runners for me, which was NWBO and LKNCY. This month so far, we haven't had anything amazing and huge, but we've had a bunch of solid, awesome like plays that bunch of singles like ACB last week, the weed runners. This week I'll talk about solo. So a lot of great plays that have brought in a lot of good, strong singles, like 1, 2, 3K gains. So this month it's not the biggest month, but I am up I think like 22 on the month. And we're like about halfway. So if I keep going the way it's going, like it'll probably be the same as October. So I'm pretty excited so far about how it's going.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Kyle. It's been a lot of, I wouldn't say singles, I would say more like double setups where we're seeing a little bit of sector momentum in the weed stocks, Bitcoin stocks, electric vehicle stocks, NIO, and none of them really went that full caliber, that super supernova. It's just kind of gone a day and then it's kind of a couple days and it fails. So that just brings our size down a little bit. Naturally, we're not going to be as aggressive on those plays because the euphoria is not there for me as primarily a short seller. But I would say this month is just as consistent, pretty good volume. Also in OTC, that's probably the majority of my gains again. And I would say on the long side as well. This month, it really hasn't been many big short opportunities. I've just been trying to scalp, take 10% here and there on these OTCs with the liquidity, and it's been adding up. I think I'm just under 50,000 on the month so far, so pretty good and consistent with last month's P&L total, except for the couple big days I had. So I'm happy overall.
Oh yeah. I embraced my inner Mike Hudson this month and basically just traded like a week. I didn't really trade much this week. But yeah, when the sector momentum came, it was like, I don't know, 50% sector momentum. Like it started off really strong, but then there wasn't like that follow through where you get like 2-3 weeks of sector momentum. The EV plays, I just haven't played that well. I tried to play solo today. I actually did try to play KNDI, and just like, I don't know, there hasn't been like just that super follow through that like we were seeing. And I was just like expecting when I was thinking this was sector momentum, I was in my head, I was comparing it to COVID, and that sector momentum was crazy. It was like 2-3 months long. And this was just like kind of a couple of days. So I think my expectations were just a little bit off, but yeah, I mean, there's certainly been plays 100%. Like I go back to all the time 2019, and there was just that stretch of like 2-3 months where there's just like no plays and it was tough. And definitely not like that at all. Like there's pretty much every single day there's some type of play out there, even though I haven't been trading every day. This week I've had some swing trades. I'll talk about them coming up. But yeah, onward.
Here we are.
All right, show us what you got, Kyle.
Want to do TSNP first?
I can talk about this one.
Yeah.
So this was a big OTC, started actually in the sub penny, had a nice little breakout, wasn't on my radar actually for that entire extension until that big day when it actually became a 1 cent stock, that's when usually it gets on my radar. I barely ever trade sub penny just because it doesn't have the same kind of framework as a penny stock or even a stock that's $1 plus. So I wasn't very familiar with it. I don't scan for it at all. I don't look at them all. But I started watching it this day, and I didn't even trade it this day, but I was watching it the entire day, and it was just slowly grinding up, and it was very, very impressive. Went from like a penny to closing around 3 cents. And then the next day I was looking for some kind of panic, and it ended up having a perfect panic, I would say. Straight out of the open, I really like when it panics right out of the open. Something like SHMP, that's a good one to look at. It was more extended, but it had the same kind of multi-day extension and panic right out of the open on a gap up. So I immediately compared it to that, and it panicked all the way down at the open, and then I did trade it on that turn. As you can see, that first green candle with all the volume. I did get some shares there, and really just what a lame bounce, in my opinion, for how much it panicked right there. It only bounced like 0.3 of a penny, and I was really looking for more. And unfortunately, I only sold like half of my shares. So I got caught in that secondary panic with a decent amount of shares. So I couldn't really sell into that weakness. They wouldn't execute me. So I had to wait and exit the rest of my shares slowly into that slow bounce up there, and into that first bounce I sold a bit, just right there, just a downsize. But ended up turning a really nice 5-figure trade into just a few thousand because I didn't got a little bit too greedy. I think I should have just took it for what it was instead of expecting more. But when it does set up perfectly, sometimes I like to keep at least a little bit for higher because I know it is what I would categorize an A setup for sure. But other than that, did trade it a little bit today. I saw that it had another washout and closed at a penny and a half. And then I often see this setup where on the first red day, if it's weak all day and very bounceless and sells off 40-50%, I often see that they can have like a small gap up and then a first green day setup. So I did start buying it. I did start buying it at 1.7 this morning on the high day break, and just sold that into the first initial morning spike. Kind of kept it on radar. Got some more on the next high day break, risking the VWAP-ish area with already a cushion on it. And unfortunately, I just watched the sideways action, and then it did crack 1.9 there, and that's where I exited my position for break even. And then it kind of held around, and the volume came in, 30 million shares there, and did go to my target, 0.022 and 25-ish. So missed out on a nice move there, but oftentimes those midday moves are not going to happen, and I'll just accept it for what it is because I save my mental capital as best I can. OTCs get a liquid midday. I just like trading the morning and the afternoon usually, and sometimes I miss these midday moves, and you just have to be okay with it. I still did end up locking in like $1,000 on it today, so I'll take it. Moving forward, it's going to get less predictable. I'll react to a panic or a breakout in the future, but no plans to trade it tomorrow.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I actually, for someone like me who doesn't trade these penny stocks, sub dollar, like really low pennies, like I'll trade a lot of 20-30 cent stocks, but for one being under 10 cents, that's not something I usually trade. But TSNP is one of the best panic / level 2 turns I've seen in a long time. And then Jack actually alerted it to me. Otherwise I wouldn't even been watching this ticker. And yeah, I agree with Jack where, when you panic nearly like 30-40%, and then we only, bounce like, 0.3 of a penny, like, typically what I've seen is bounces usually go around halfway. They don't always go to the halfway of the panic mark, but they usually go at least close to it. And so that would have easily been, 2.7, 2.8 would have been more toward the halfway mark. So the fact that we only got to 2.5 was just very, disappointing. But again, we did get from 2.2 to 2.5. It is like a 10-15% panic. So at the same time, we did get enough to profit, which is why I think I made a little under $2,000. Jack made, like you said, a few grand. So still good, but yeah, definitely a little bit disappointing. But my favorite play of the week, well, I have 2 favorite plays I'll go over, but my first one was solo. And like we mentioned when we went over our months about when we talked about sector momentum with the weeds, with the electric vehicles, specifically with electric vehicles, it was sector momentum, but it was different in that every electric vehicle company was running, but it was kind of running at its own pace. They weren't all following each other. They were all just kind of running on their own. For example, like when Solo had this big green day from $5.20 to $8, NIO was having a red day. So for two tickers to be the face of like electric vehicle sector, or people know that are in the electric vehicle sector, and to one have a huge red day and another have a huge green day, it's like, yes, they're both hot, but they're not correlated directly to each other, not following each other exactly, which is why this sector momentum wasn't like amazing. It wasn't like weed stocks per se, or like how crypto usually works back in 2018 or so. But coming into this day was the first red day, because as you saw on the daily chart, I mean, we're up from $3 and we just touched 8 and closed at like 6. So still up over 100%, still a huge squeeze. Anyone who was short and didn't want to cut their losses, got really squeezed into this huge squeeze from 5.50 to 8 in the morning. I actually did make a little money shorting this parabolic here because it just got really overdone, and at some point, when you see this blow off volume here, there will be a pullback, and so I timed this top pretty well. Made a few hundred, like $1,000 there. And then coming into, what was this, Monday now? Yeah, Monday. I'm looking for the first red day, right? First red green move. And because it had gapped every day without going red, here and here, I thought, once it goes red for the first time, it should, have a pretty severe panic. And so in pre-market, instead of uptrending, we're actually downtrending into the open. So right out the open, I think the red green move was like 620, 630 around there. So right when we broke it, I slapped right in, risking, the 640, 650 level. In my eyes, it was either going to work right away or not at all. And that ended up being the case, right? It worked right away, down, panic sub 6, small bounce here, and then went lower. I ended up having pretty good covers, about a quarter or half of my shares around the 570s. And then when we bounced back into 590s and testing 6, once we failed 6 right here, that was a pretty, I guess, bearish sign to me that, if we can fail around a number like that and into a bounce, we're probably going to have another leg down. And so I re-added my shares back on. And then once we panicked, I actually got a great cover. My best cover was 539. And I think the low this day was 537. And so you might ask me, like, how do you know it was the bottom? And honestly, I didn't. When I was all covering here, I had thought, like, crap, it's going to go lower. I thought we were going to see 520, 510. Like, I thought we were really going to start testing, yesterday's lows and this morning spike here. But we just never did, and we held. So in hindsight, I guess I covered very close to the bottom, which is great, but I didn't know what was going to happen. So in terms of this balance, I kind of screwed this up. I tried shorting here and then had to cut it again, then shorting one more time and cutting it again. And of course, third time was the charm, where if you shorted into here, which was close to where red green was, finally, this was the fade I was looking for. So, did make $3,000 here, or 3,500 in this panic, and then gave back 200 or 300 here, then another 200 or 300 there. So 500 trying to time the bounce. Should have given it one last shot, but after mistiming it twice, I just didn't think it was going to fade as much as it did. So no big deal. Still made $3,000 in this play. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Haven't touched it since. It's kind of uptrending. It might even looks like kind of wants to break out again, but I'm not going to lie. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, no, honestly, I was watching Solo closely today to see if it'd follow through. Just because when you look at the daily chart, like, shorts look trapped. There was that first red day, which was only really red in the morning, and then it honestly kind of uptrended the rest of the day. And then it was green again yesterday, held right near highs today. I don't know if it's going to continue, but if it does break out over that like $7 level, basically, or like 750s. If it starts just forming a lot of support over $7 and can really break out, I think shorts are in trouble, and we could definitely see a pretty powerful run into the end of this week. So top watch for me.
I agree.
I think that with the INO bad earnings, it's going to affect the stock at all? Like, do you think that they're kind of trying to trap longs here, actually?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I've seen some chatter, honestly, on Twitter about NIO possibly doing an offering. And there's probably one coming. I mean, the stocks just run so much. Like, even Tesla did an offering, like, back when it was running. So, I mean, I think what could possibly kill this play is if NIO does an offering, and that would just like kill the whole EV sector for at least a week or so. Or if Solo does an offering. But like Kyle was saying at the beginning of this, like, I've struggled with this kind of run, this EV run, the latest one at least, because like they're all running kind of independently. Like they just spike whenever they decide to spike. They're all running, but just not at the same time.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let me get into my basically only trade of the week. Now this one's a little outside of how I usually trade, but kind of the same premise. This was a long trade on CRSR, which is Corsair. I'm familiar with it. They're in my computer, so I know like the brand a little bit. This like more of like almost an investment thesis, but I like just kind of swung trade it. Recent IPO, I think he got on my radar from Bohen. Bowen's been killing it, guys, on his pre-market prep videos. Like honestly, like he's just basically every top percent gainer of the day, he calls out pre-market before they even spike. So I've been watching those. And I think he mentioned this in one of them. So I just pulled it up. And once it started flirting around that $30 level last week, I was like, all right, I kind of like the $30 breakout. Like, so I scooped up 1,000 shares and swung it, and it's just been grinding up. I mean, if you look at tech, since COVID, tech has just been hot. Like I can't deny it, even though I don't usually trade it. Like Apple's, Tesla, Amazon of the world, and this is in the tech sector. I'd consider it. So I swung it on that $30 breakout and just kind of risked the lows on that day Kyle's highlighting. So like the $28 level of the previous day. Pretty much right around $28. So I was risking $2 a share, and I cashed in today early morning for like I low 35s on that first spike there. Yeah, so basically $5 a share, risking $2 a share. I literally just threw a hard like market stop for the first 2 days, and then I took it off yesterday because it was trending so well. And then today into the morning spike, I was like, all right, we've spiked enough. My risk reward's good here, so I just cashed in, and I was busy this week, just like with my day job. So it's good to be in the market even when your life gets in the way, which is basically what's been going on with me this month. So that's my trade for you, boys.
Nice. I actually
Like
own that keyboard, that brand for my keyboard, and it's the best keyboard that I've had so far. And I've had probably like 5 to 10 keyboards, just because I'm a keyboard nerd a little bit. But I really like that keyboard, so
yeah, I agree.
Great.
Solid company. Highly
Yeah.
recommend. I don't have their keyboard, but I imagine it's pretty fire.
I'll send you a link to one on Amazon.
Appreciate it. What's your big swing trade, which is a long, everybody?
Yep. Before I go over, I like what you did there, Matt, on this trade, because some people ask me all the time because you said you're busy with your day job, and people ask me all the time, like, how do I trade with the day job? And I think the only thing that I could think of that I would have done if I had to deal with that is swing trading, right? You find a strategy, whether it's breakouts or whatever long strategy you have, and you set a market, or set a stop loss, and you kind of just let it work, right? It's either going to work for you or it's not. And so that's exactly what you did here. And of course, you're giving yourself a little bit of time in the morning to trade the open and stuff like that, catch these spikes. But at the same time, like if you have to work and do stuff, like you buy a certain stock, depending on your strategy, you set a stop loss and you let it go for a few days and see how it goes. So I think that's a pretty good example there.
Yeah, and I like how too. I mean, I usually only swing like what I'd call like basically like a real company, right? Like I've just never found success swing penny stocks really, but something like Corsair Gaming, like I'm not going to get stuck in an offering overnight. It's not just going to dump 50% on me out of the open one morning. So like it's like just kind of like a safer play. It's slower moving. So that's the only reason like I was comfortable swinging a stock like that.
Yep, I like it. But yeah, so I have this very similar swing idea on GBTC. So disclaimer for people who don't know, I think only people who are pretty close to me know, but I do own Bitcoin. I am pretty bullish to keep the hype as low as possible. I do believe in Bitcoin. And I actually watch Bitcoin through, let's go here, like you go to bitcoinwisdom.io. There we go. So I do watch Bitcoin trade live on bitcoinwisdom.io. And then if you've been around for when it ran back to 20K, it's been quite a ride going from 20 back down to 3K, then back to 14, then to 5, and now we're approaching all-time highs again. And so this is a weekly chart here, when we started breaking over, what was this, $12,000, $13,000 level, I did think was gonna. I didn't expect it to go all the way up to 18, but I did expect to maybe get a few grand per coin like run, or certainly over this 14,000 level. And so when we did that, I already owned Bitcoin for real, like through Coinbase and Gemini, but I wanted to try to take a different trade idea and buy GBTC with like my E-Trade account. So when we were breaking over this like $14 level, I decided to buy 500 shares around 14.59. I think I bought it on the 22nd of October. So like right in here, initially I was risking $10, which is quite a wide stop. But I was going to move it up, and I actually was okay risking that much because I was actually looking to buy 500 more shares. I would have loved to get like 1,000 shares on a swing, but because it just kept going up, I never got the chance to add, and then I moved my stop up to 12 and then back to 14 after a few days. So, and it just kept going. And usually I never swing longs like more than a day or two. I usually only swing shorts like for multi-weeks, but as this kept working and kept going up, I just kept staying patient. And so coming into yesterday when we started really kind of going parabolic and Bitcoin was, testing 18K, and as Bitcoin's or as GBTC is following and we're now at $20 a share and I'm long from, 1450. If you look at Bitcoin's weekly chart, it's like we're up like what 6 weeks in a row now. And if you know how Bitcoin works, like every time we do that, like we get a hard pull, a few weeks of all green hard pull, another few weeks of hard green hard pull. So it's like, a hard pullback is coming. Like even though we're at 18K, we're probably going to pull back down to 15 or 14K, maybe retest these breakout levels. And so knowing that in trading GBTC, I said, I don't want to overstay my welcome. I'd rather sell early and not sell the top and just lock in gains than be caught in a backside move and sell, late. So I did end up selling all my shares, all 500 shares into this little ramp here into the low 20s, and locked in like close to $3,000, almost $6 a share. So yeah, I'm pretty excited with that. Like that's by far my most impressive and longest swing trade on the long side. And I think it's because it gave me conviction because I am partly biased because I do own Bitcoin. But besides that, like in terms of just trading the chart, I'm pretty happy with how I handled it. So.
Beautiful. Welcome to the light side.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes from here, Just gonna keep an eye on it.
And not that I'm pumping Bitcoin, but I did open a Coinbase account, and I would love if Bitcoin just pulled back a little bit so I could scoop some more up. That's the plan.
There we go.
I might have to turn on the lights and get a Coinbase account here pretty soon. Because I'll tell you what, it's dark and depressing over here with no Coinbase account. I want in on the fun, boys.
Oh, I love it. All right, boys. That's all I got today.
So like I said in the beginning of this episode, like we're in November. Like Matt said, Thanksgiving's next week. December is next month. And even so, after into New Year, there's January. Like there's a bunch of, I would say, key events that are coming up in terms of holiday trading. And every holiday trading is different. There's not like this one like traditional thing that happens on holiday trading, but it is certainly sometimes pretty volatile and pretty eventful. Because if you think about it, everyone who doesn't day trade and now has the day off, like might want to for the day. So that brings in a lot of volume. So just something to watch out for. And then coming into January after December, there's usually called like the January effect. If people sell off, especially this year, if Biden increases taxes, like a lot of people have been speculating people are selling their long-term gains now to lock in their tax bracket. So if a bunch of stocks sell off going into December, in January, there's a January effect where stocks will start running. So that might be an opportunity as well. It's just some things I'm thinking about as we move forward. So
I like that. Plus, I know I've speculated about this a couple times, but there will be, with Biden in office, another stimulus. Just at some point, there's been rumors about him locking his stuff down again. New York City, actually today, as we're recording this, shut down their schools again. So like COVID's getting bad, and we all know what happened last time COVID got bad. Everyone became a day trader, and that kind of fizzled out. And I mean, there's more day traders, there's more volume for sure than there's ever been before, but it's not like what it was during peak COVID last time. So I think holidays mixed with COVID, mixed with stimulus, like I just think there's a strong mixed with January effect. Like there's a strong possibility that end of this year, beginning of next year, it's going to just be some crazy volatility.
I agree.
Chris Cross, honestly, as a green day trader. But all right, guys, that concludes this episode. If you're new, make sure you like, subscribe, check out our older episodes. We do this every week. And even though, you know, some people on Twitter message me, like even though the trades are old or the trades are a month or two ago, it's the same patterns, right? Like Kyle, Jack, me, we trade the same patterns week after week, just the ticker changes. Go review them. There's, you know, little gold nuggets in every single episode. So make sure you check them out. That's all we got today. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Peace.